Well, you'd have to be living under a rock if you didn't realize that conflict is one of the things that's happening in our Western world. We're polarizing. We're seeing political conflict, we're seeing social conflict, cultural conflict, lots of different conflicts. And the gap in the middle between those two is widening. What you're getting is a polarization left and right on many issues, and you're seeing people unable to deal with conflict. What's very interesting too is that a younger cohort of people are refusing conflict by just hiding away in echo chambers. We're seeing that all of the time. We're also seeing people looking into other directions to resolve conflict. And one of the problems we have is that there are power pushes on both progressive, conservative, left and right in our politics and culture that would shut down conflict by overwhelming the opposition. And many people are looking on going, is this the way to move forward? Won't this just fracture us? And it would be great as a church if we were immune from that, but we're not. And one of the things I want to say in this video is about conflict within the church. If we're going to have people come to us from outside the church who are sick of conflict, it would be good to run the hygiene over our own leadership, over the way we do church, and ask, how do we do conflict? One of the great books that I've been reading the last few years and done it with a couple of church leadership teams is this book, Lead by Paul Tripp, a great book about leadership and how we do leadership together. And one of the chapters is on conflict. There are other chapters on how we deal with people we disagree with in deep ways. And what I really like about that book, it's a hard examination. And perhaps as leadership teams, as we face what is inevitably people coming to us who are either conflict averse or have had a lot of conflict in their lives, is how does the church deal with it? If someone comes to us and says, how do you do forgiveness in your church? And all that happens is we say, well, probably the same as you do. Someone leaves the church, someone sits in the far seats and the other seats and they don't talk. Then there's a problem. So it would be good to do a bit of a welfare check, so to speak, in your leadership team as to how you deal with conflict. And that's the point. It might be worth outsourcing that to someone else or to an organization that can test where your conflict is at. Because it may be the case that your leadership team doesn't do conflict and therefore you think you don't have it. But that might just mean you're not very good at it. There's a certain level of conflict that's good. And if a team or a team leader can't deal with conflict, there might be bigger questions to ask because someone's having conflict somewhere. So there are pragmatic reasons for sorting out the conflict. Your church will run better if you're dealing with conflict and you're aware of it and you're praying and talking through these issues and having honest conversations. If people are coming to us who have dealt with a lot of conflict and are worried about it, it would be awful if they just saw the same with us. But there's a principled reason for us to do that as well, isn't there? When we think about how Paul talks in 1 Corinthians about the divisions among the church, we see those things spread out in 1 Corinthians. Because what you see in 1 Corinthians is it's okay if someone's for Paul and someone's for Apollos or someone's for Peter. But later the conflicts become even wider. The poor don't get to eat with the rich when the common meal happens. And that shows something deeper, something spiritual that's going on. It's better to think about how conflict is viewed by Jesus than simply to think, how do we pragmatically ensure that we're ready for people who are averse to conflict? We don't want to paper over the cracks. So in the coming tide of faith that's coming our way, these are good ways to test where we are with conflict. I would suggest to you, if you don't deal with conflict well in your church, or you don't deal with conflict well personally, it's good to get someone from outside, either to coach you or help you, or bring a staff or leadership team together and ask how you deal with conflict, because those things will be important going forward. The other thing I would say to us is that if it's true that there's an unseen realm and that there is a spiritual aspect to absolutely everything, then the conflict that would be in our churches may keep people from church. Jesus may keep people from our churches because of the conflict that's going on. We cannot firewall our external lives off from our internal lives. So I think giving a church an opportunity to examine how it deals with conflict is a good idea in our current times. The other thing I think we should do is just get our people to know the kinds of conflicts that are on in the world, to see where the Christian faith is in conflict with the wider world, and then ask, what is the way that we would respond to that from a biblical perspective? It might be worth doing a series on, or not necessarily preaching, but a series of workshops on dealing with conflict about identity, dealing with conflict about gender, dealing with conflict about a vision of human flourishing, or dealing with conflict about politics. How do you do those things? The sermon might not give you the time and the space to do it, but they're conversations worth having. So I think conflict is a big issue. People are looking for something beyond it, and they're looking for people who, even if they disagree with them in certain areas, have got something about them that just doesn't dial everything up to bad conflict. There's good conflict, we need to use it well, but there's bad conflict, and we need to root that out by the power of the gospel.